This story explores some interesting elements, and would eventually inspire other stories that would have this similar element of questioning reality and maybe exploring what could be real and what could not be real. With that said, however, there are still some very weird elements to this story, as we're about to see. Hello everybody, your friendly neighborhood demonic Ravenwolf October is back with another weird tale. Today we are going over a very interesting science fiction story written by the legendary Philip K. Dick that he wrote in 1965. And like many of his stories, this story has a very unique sounding name. We will remember it for you, Wholesale. Or you might know it from the movie that pulls elements from this story, Total Recall. Okay, that's enough of that. Let me just say that this short story is somewhat different than the film. However, I will say that both are incredibly weird and enjoyable. You should definitely check both of them out. Getting into the short story, we start off with a man by the name of Douglas Quayle, and a dream where he is imagining what it would be like to be on Mars. The story makes it perfectly clear that Quayle will never visit the planet of Mars because only government agents and high officials have been there. And Quayle, being neither of these, just a clerk, as his wife keeps reminding him once a day for some reason. She also gets really annoyed with him for just dreaming, especially specifically dreams about Mars. And it turns out the reason she gets upset at him for dreaming about Mars is because, I don't know, maybe she's just a hateful, negative person that doesn't like it when people dream about Mars specifically? Yeah, unlike the movie, there's really no twist here. It's kind of discussed that maybe her memories were altered, but they don't really expel upon it or anything. So I'm just gonna decide she gets mad at people just for dreaming about other planets. So to appeal Quayle's daydreaming, his wife suggests that they rent an artificial gill suit and explore the bottom of the ocean. Which, in thinking about it, would be a kind of awesome adventure if you could actually do that. Quayle turns it down because he desperately wants to go to Mars, and it wouldn't be the same. He decides to drop the matter with her and decides to go off to work. But in actuality, he's going to a place he has seen many times before, and believes it could hold the key to accomplishing his dream about going to Mars. Recall Incorporated. Although for some reason it's spelled R-E-K-A-L Incorporated. Entering the building, he comes across the receptionist who has these, well, she's not afraid to show, she has...
melons! Big, juicy melons!
Okay, she's described bare-chested, alright? Let's move on. Anyway, she pages a man named Mr. McLean, who is wearing a frog pelt suit, interesting fashion. Mr. McLean tells Quayle about the benefits of getting a memory implant versus doing the actual thing. Apparently, the memory implant provides a perfect memory without any vagueness, ellipses, and omissions that actual memories have. However, wouldn't that mean the memory implant isn't perfect because it doesn't have those omissions or absences in memory in it, thus making the memory not that perfect? I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it. Along with the memory implant, the company also sends you postcards and various curios from Mars to make it further feel like and convince you that you have actually been to the Red Planet. And since only government agents are allowed on Mars, they implant the very specific memory that Quayle was a secret agent. What could possibly go wrong? Quayle, of course, decides that this is the best option to accomplishing his dream. So he allows them to proceed with the memory implant. Of course, something goes wrong. The technicians find out that there is absolutely not enough room to put the new memories, and in a drowsy haze, Quayle tells them that he is in fact an actual secret agent who is working for Interplan. He reveals he had a secret assignment on Mars, and if the technician or Mr. McLean tells anybody, he will take them apart. So yeah, being incredibly freaked out by this, the technician and Mr. McLean scramble to get him out of the facility immediately. Although, interestingly, they only return half of his fee because that's not going to cause any issues in the future, right? So they dump him in a taxicab and send him on his way. Of course, Quayle has some memory of visiting Recall Inc. and tells the robotic taxicab driver to turn around back to the facility. Especially when he finds out they only returned half of his fee. And his memory of Mars isn't that great because it has holes and inconsistencies in it, almost as if it's an actual memory. After returning, he confronts the same receptionist at the front counter. She tries to, I guess, gaslight him by claiming that he had interest in their services, but they didn't actually implant anything, which is kinda true. Of course, Quail instantly does not believe her and remembers her completely. Probably because she has a distinct personality. Oh yeah, and you have two bazungas exposed there. But to be fair, she paints them purple, I guess to throw him off? Suffice to say, since Quail doesn't have a complete, perfect memory of Mars and doesn't have the curios that they were going to give him from Mars, he asks for a full refund, which, of course, they give to him, because, yeah, you should have done that to begin with. He returns home back to his apartment, however, a vague memory of Mars still plagues him. The memory is him collecting these plant life from Mars, as well as these very strange creatures that are called mole worms. He comes across a bag in his room containing the exact contents from this memory. Quail, of course, wonders if this maybe is another perk of the Recall Inc. program. But he decides that can't be because how would they get the specimens precisely from his memory? His wife comes home and he tells her everything. His trip to Recall, the specimens, and the fact that he could be a secret agent. Like before, she is not into it, and she says she will leave him if he doesn't drop this crazy Mars fantasy. Jeez, lady, have a daydream once in a while. Finding out this secret past about himself, Quail can't simply drop it, and his wife says goodbye and hopes that he gets the help that he needs. After she leaves, a man comes out of hiding holding a gun, wearing an Interplan police uniform. He explains to Quail that they have been monitoring his brainwaves due to an implant in his head, so they know all of his thoughts and all the things he did throughout the day, including his trip to Recall Inc. He reveals that they sent him to Mars to take out a rival of Interplan. Because of Quail regaining his memories, the man determines that he is far too risky to keep alive. So, he tries to kill him, but Quail quickly wrestles the gun away from him and flees the apartment. After getting out of the immediate area, Quail analyzes the situation to see what his options are. He cannot go on the run forever because they'll be able to track him down due to the implant in his head. And he cannot go back to Mars because there will be people looking for him, especially after he took out a rival of another organization. Knowing that they can hear his thoughts, he decides to surrender and ask if they could alter his memories again so it can be more convincing and he has no memories of Mars or has any desire to go back to Mars. They take him back to Recall Inc., where they decide to replace his memory with something that could perhaps be more convincing. Since Quail has a desire to go to Mars, they decide to replace it with a very bizarro fantasy about him saving the Earth, I guess to give him more of a connection to Earth, maybe? In this very far-out fantasy, apparently, aliens came down to destroy the planet Earth, and Quail, as a child, showed them kindness, which changed their minds. And so long as Quail is alive, these aliens will not destroy the Earth. To insert this fantasy into reality, they give him a fake healing rod, which no longer works, because it wasn't never real, a document from the UN thanking him for saving the planet Earth, and finally a paper with a funny language and a detailed star map explaining where the aliens came from. I have no idea why they thought this plan would work. I also don't know why they included the artifacts if this is just supposed to be a fantasy. It's just all a little bit confusing what their plan actually was. So this memory implant kinda works, however his Martian memories and the fantasy about the aliens have now been combined into one. He certainly remembers the aliens, however the quote-unquote healing rod he believes was actually a destroying rod, and that's why they sent him to Mars to take out the man. And he says he can prove it because it's in the same place with the dried up plant life and the mole worms he got from the planet. And this is where the story comes to an end. This is a very interesting take about how people thought the future was going to be like and what they thought Mars was like in the 70s. As you can see, it definitely deviates a lot from the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Total Recall, But I wouldn't go so far to say that the movie is the worst adaptation to the short story. There's definitely some overlap, especially in the beginning parts. There's certainly a lot of weird elements to this story, especially what they thought people were going to be doing in the future and what they were going to be wearing. Or should I say, not wearing. The only issue I have with the story is how exactly the memory implant works and how was them inserting this bizarro fantasy was supposed to stop Quail from remembering his time on the Red Planet. I just found it kind of confusing, just a little bit. Other than that, I really enjoyed this short story that inspires other stories about reality and memory. If you like this kind of stuff, definitely like and subscribe to the channel. Okay, I'll do it. And if you didn't like this video... I love that movie. Take care, everybody.